Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Diehm stream. I'm Jay, and today we're here with a very special interview with Rachairmuin. He's going to be popping in. We're going to be asking him a few questions about how it is he got into Twitch, what it is that he loves about Twitch, what advice he might have for aspiring Twitch streamers, and finally, what he feels his niche is. This is going to be our super streamer origin interview. So let's drop in here real quick. As long as my button wants to work, which that's not there. We're just gonna push it physically. How are we doing today, sir?
Doing pretty good. Pretty damn good. It's a little
Awesome.
early for me, but
Yeah, it's what is it, 8 a.m. your time?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I felt so bad. I was like, I'm trying to like so we have a retro stream coming up around noon, and so I don't like to push it too close to that because the guy there's a guy we have who comes in. He takes his time, but he like comes in at a very specific time. So I was like pushing those interviews, and they were kind of close. I always feel so bad when I get like when I ask people to wake up like super early.
Yeah, no, I didn't mind. It was just like that moment of hesitation when you're like, "Oh yeah, 8 a.m." and I was like, that's my day off. Fuck." Like,
I've
all
been
right,
there.
screw it. Let's do it.
Oh, I've been there. I've been there. Okay. Oops. There we go. Button. Button troubles. All right. So, I like to ask people right away. Like the first question I like to ask people is how you got into Twitch. And I've heard a little bit about this, but you have an interesting motivation behind why you got into Twitch. But let's talk about like how did you get into it? How did you discover Twitch at first? What made you decide to jump in? Talk about that motivation a little bit.
So I've had a Twitch account for something like 6 years. I had I had one early and kind of knew what was going on and had some involvement in it. Um, but really just never I never saw the value in it for me specifically, and I never spent a whole lot of my time watching other people play games. I like to play games myself. So it was one of those things that it was a gem that I just passed by for so long. More recently, some things happened, and my son, circumstances changed with him in schooling, so he's going to have to go to get homeschooled this year, which means that I need to change my entire schedule around. I was looking for some online work that I could do so that I didn't completely tank in revenue when I left my job to kind of pursue my son's education. And just kind of as a whim, I really kind of started doing this thing. My kids have always been asking me to stream or to make YouTube videos. It's kind of the new American dream now. Kids don't want to be firefighters, kids don't want to be astronauts. They want to be Twitch streamers or they want to be YouTube stars, the new celebrity. Um, and so and it weirdly all just kind of came together for me in a way. And so I was like, okay, well, let's try this thing. Let's see if I can learn how to do it. I have some marketing skills, I have some business skills, I've started a number of businesses. um, and if I can figure out how to do this, maybe I can train my kids. And in a way that was really important to me because I wanted to teach my kids an entrepreneurial mindset from a very young age, independent mindset, um, and where they weren't necessarily thinking about, oh, where am I going to get my next job to make an income? They were thinking about how am I going to start my next business to make an income, even from a young age. I think the paradigm of our society is changing, where college isn't as useful. Or as strong of a path as it used to be. And a lot of the fundamental traditional paradigms of our society aren't necessarily the promised land anymore. There's really no path to the American dream. And it's very important for me to find a way to teach my kids to have that, to have something to work for, to strive for, besides working a job until they were 70.
That's awesome. That's fascinating. So, like, that's so cool because jumping into this concept, like, one of the things I was thinking about with Twitch is there's so many kids who want to get into it. And I think it's one of those things where it's a lot of missed opportunities to teach your kids, like, a first job, sort of. because it teaches responsibility. It does have like a financial return if you work at it and you put at it. But it also like has this extracurricular circumstance where if your kid really wants to do it, they have to show up daily and do that, or
Well,
show
you
up on
have
a
to work
schedule.
your butt off,
Yeah.
not just show up. You got it's hard work.
Yeah, well, it's broadcasting, it's design. You have to have this ability to adapt and to learn like immediately. It's insane the amount of work that you put into these things, and it's cool, but it's just it boggles my mind, and I think that's a really cool thing that you're doing is you're trying to teach your kids. Um, something that they want to do, how to invest into that thing, and you're jumping in by learning yourself. So, how long have you been at Twitch so far?
I started streaming May 20th. That was my first stream.
May 20th. Okay. So, that's probably 4 or 5 months, maybe. Think about it, like August. Yeah. Yeah. Almost. Yeah. Ooh.
Three. It's like tomorrow's will be 3 months, I guess.
My math is terrible. We clearly. So, okay. So you've been streaming for about 3 months now. You said you kind of started out by gaming and stuff, but like what you said you've kind of transitioned a bit. Um, what did you start gaming with, and how did you transition into what you've transitioned into now?
Oh God, my very first stream, I streamed a game called The Hunter.
The Hunter? What's
And yeah, it's the most realistic hunting simulator out there is how they license themselves. It's a beautiful game. It's really pretty. I thought it would be fun to stream, but right after that, one of my friends pulled me aside and said, "Hey, bro, that game might be fun to play, but it's not fun to watch. Stream something else."
I feel yeah. I had a friend actually tell me to stop streaming Skyrim because he was like it's really boring, and I was like, oh okay. He's like, sorry man. I was like, no, I appreciate your feedback. It's good to have a friend that like will tell you
Will
like
tell you.
yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
and I
bored.
appreciate that. It was hard to hear at the time. I mean, not really. I was new. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I still don't really know what the hell I'm doing.
It's a learning experience, You especially when it comes to gaming, you might have this game that's incredibly entertaining and it would create this amazing content, but nobody watches it.
Well,
Um,
because it's fun for you.
yeah,
You
well,
want to play it because it's fun for you. It's engaging. It's fun for you. But it's like that old thing where when it's not your turn, like when we used to take turns playing the PlayStation over at your friend's house, drinking soda, and it wasn't your turn, and you were off screwing around somewhere else, or it's hard to pay attention when it's not your turn. I think.
yeah, well, but like I mean, there are games out there though that would be incredibly entertaining to watch, and still no one watches it. Whether it be they haven't heard of it or they just they want to watch something else.
I think a lot of
There are
people
games
have a
out there.
follower mentality, and if there's not high numbers on a thing, they're scared or whatever to go check it out or to like it because in case other people might think of me or I don't know.
It's crazy though. It's a game. Like you really have to like learn to play the mental game of like what's going to be the next thing that someone wants
Well,
to
and that's
watch.
that's what's happening to me right now. That's why I don't game anymore because I one okay. So one day my friend was like, "Hey, do you want to get together on stream sometime?" And I was like, "Hey, that's a really good idea." And so we just kind of were like, all right, let's do that. And then we didn't. And then one day I was literally 15 minutes from stream and I don't remember if he hit me up like, hey, let's do that. And I was like, all right, let's do it in 15. I think he hit me up. He was like, hey, let's do that. And I was like, all right, well, I'm streaming in 15 minutes, bro. So get on. And he was like, all right. And it was amazing. Like we were laughing our asses off and we were talking about pertinent subjects and then the audience was so engaged and then his audience and my audience were in literally both of our chats talking amongst themselves to us. It was just like it was the best stream I think I've ever had. And everybody was like, wow, you really need to like do this. You need to be talking to people. You need, because it was sort of an interview format, but it was more just like, oh, we just were becoming friends as we were hanging out, and people were watching the evolution of our relationship, of our talking, and seeing us just kind of hit it off and just cracking jokes. And then it made me realize, wow, if we could manufacture this into something else, like something specific, like a laser focused idea, right? Like, he was a disabled veteran, and half of the time we spent talking about his story, talking about his him overcoming his tragedies, some of the things that he's been through, how he overcomes that, and how he uses Twitch on a daily basis to help prevent his seizures, literally. Like, and it made me realize that, wow, there's this message out there, this underlying message and story that people have as content creators that not only can help them by sharing it, because you could see as he was getting his story out, his emotional levels going up and down. And then as he was telling it, just how healing it was for him to be able to just get it out and explain and express. And then the chat was responding with this huge outpouring of love and support and interest. And it made me realize that, wait, here's the thing. Here's the magic. Here's the things. People have a story to tell. People love telling their stories. People love hearing hope and inspiration, and people love being inspired and feeling hopeful. Let's put all of this together and do what was the most responsive thing that we had done yet. You know, let's move, let's adapt, let's grow, let's evolve, just like in any real business.
That's cool. So how long have you been doing that format now?
Like 3 weeks, almost a month, I think. I actually have the date right. So that was the 15th of last month.
Oh,
So a little over a month now we've
okay.
been doing.
Nice. So would you say that that would probably be like your niche now is how would you describe that if you were to like try and describe it as a niche?
I use my platform to share other people's stories as a message of hope and inspiration.
Okay. So like how so so would you say that is your direct platform now? Like do you see gaming in the future at all or is
I
that
try to game like once a week just so that it's still something people see me do. But I noticed that when I'm gaming, and like I'm not sitting here watching the viewer count, right? But I do try to reference to it depending on when I'm doing different activities and when different things are going on. Whether there's, if there's 20 people in there when I'm chatting with somebody and there's 4 people in there when I'm gaming, over the course of time, I'm going to look at that and say, well, that's a trend. I need to pay attention to that. Now, when I'm in there playing a game and there's only a few people in there, I'm not like worried about it. I'm trying to do what I'm trying to do and be entertaining, and that's all that you can do. But I definitely try and keep track of those things over time to see how they're affecting me and my growth, because I want to succeed at this, not just bang my head against the wall needlessly.
okay? So who have you not like if you like how much diversity have you found in like talking to friends? Are you talking to a lot of different friends or are you just talking to like one specific friend or are you finding new random people to talk to?
I made a list of, so I put out a tweet. So this is okay. So after I had that really good interview with my friend and everything started going really well, and I'm kind of putting this idea together, I'm like, okay, let's tweet and see how much response this gets. I send out one tweet that basically said, hey, I'm looking for some people to co-stream with. If you have something interesting to say or you have a message that you'd like to share, go ahead and hit me up. If I would have kept my same streaming schedule by all the people that responded to me either on that post or in DM form, I would have had literally 9 months straight of people booked right off the bat from one post.
Wow.
So the very first thing I did was like, okay, first come, first serve. And I just started signing people up according to the time slots that I had and their availability in the order that they contacted me. And really quickly, I realized that ain't a good idea because somebody had a really terrible mic and was just cutting out the entire time and you could barely hear him. This other person, her computer wasn't working and she was streaming from her phone, which ended up working out okay, but the quality level of everything just really wasn't like there and what I was trying to kind of achieve at a certain point. Another person really just wanted to like, because at first it wasn't really an interview setup necessarily. It was more like let's chat and get to know each other. And then another person comes on and they're just like, oh, it's the me show. Let's talk about me. This is what I want to do. And da 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 da. And like at the time, I didn't mind that. But I was also like, well, that wasn't quite the intention either. So it made me realize that I needed to have a lot more intention to what I did. I needed to vet people beforehand. I needed to check out their streaming content and the quality of it a little bit more, like pay a little more attention to that. And also like um, vet their message, right? Because sometimes when I was talking to people, it was like, oh, we were just bullshitting. And it was fun and it was fine. But I felt like what I was trying to accomplish got a little bit lost in the mix of us just hanging out. And it was also during the time where I was still trying to like define my mission exactly too. So I didn't know necessarily, but as it was happening, I kind of realized hindsight's 2020, and it was like, well, that didn't feel how I wanted it to feel, and let's move on and change a few things so that it's better next time, or whatever. And so yeah, now I'm just kind of going through this phase of like experimenting slightly within what I'm trying to do, seeing how it goes, track numbers and analytics to see what it means, talk to people and see how they react in chat, and then move forward with this kind of thing that we're trying to do. The other part of it that I'd like to expand into soon slash eventually is I realized like I'm trying to gather as much information as possible so I can teach my kids how to do this, right? Why the hell can't I utilize that information to teach more than my kids how to do this? Somebody showed me, somebody gave me some information. They did it for free. They didn't charge me. They weren't like, hey, bro, throw me a donation and I'll spit you some, knowledge or whatever. They were like, hey, I see you struggling. I see you trying to make it. You seem like a quality person. Here's some things that I know that could help you. And boom, it did. And now I'm not struggling with 0 to 1 viewers anymore. I've been able to move past that barricade and to move forward. And like you said, like I haven't gotten very far. I'm no big streamer. I've only been doing this for a short time and I barely know what I'm doing. But the little bit of experience and knowledge that I've gained in this short amount of time, I know for sure can help people who are just starting out right now in the same way that it's going to help my kids when they're just starting out. And it made me realize that if I found a way to develop not only a curriculum, maybe I kind of want to steer away from that word a bit because I think it puts ideas in people's minds that I don't intend, but I'll put together a book of knowledge or a way like a website, a team of people who would act as instructors to share their advice and knowledge from their experience, donate their time to help other people in a coordinated fashion so that we can teach others how to get past those initial hurdles and really make their content shine.
Yeah, I think that's actually a wonderful idea. I mean, there are places to go where you can kind of learn, but it's not directly out there in your face as much anymore. Like, I mean, if you ask like a lot of people, I say like Harris Heller, Ashley Christ, Guy Level, those three have a lot of information, but you have to pick through kind of what they have. Like
And each
you know.
one of them excels in certain things that they know that they can teach you, right?
Oh,
But
Nugget
if
Meal,
they
thank you
were
for the
working
host.
together in a coordinated way, each teaching what they excelled about in a way that was like, look, okay, you covered this, I'll cover this, he covers this, and someone else covers this. And through that, we've covered most of what there is, like an ongoing Twitch panel, like TwitchCon panel
Yeah.
forever, like that never stops. That it's a repository of information, also possibly a place that you can log into on a unique maybe channel where certain people have the stream keys and can stream to that in an order or whatever. I mean, I haven't quite ironed out a lot of the kind of ideas yet and how necessarily I want to do it, but I think it'd be really interesting to to offer people a place of where they can go find that repository of knowledge, and then the people that have that knowledge can deposit it, for others to share.
That makes yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think it's interesting too because there are, like I said, there are places where you can get information, but you have to fit to their schedule. You have to, or you have to search through what you're interested in on a YouTube channel. It'd be nice if there was like a place to go to just sit down and listen to creators talk, you know. And that's why, that's part of why I like doing this stuff is because I like to sit down and just
Chicken nuggets is like my family.
we have to sit down and like listen to like look for people. But I like to sit down and talk and get other people's perspectives. So not just I can learn, other people can learn. And I think that's awesome that because you have a reason to do this. You are doing this for your kids, but then you also want to share that with the world, which just adds so much more to your content. Oh, I did want to go back a little bit. So you talked. You're talking a little bit about just kind of refining everything for your process of who you're talking to and vetting people and stuff. So how is that going now when you're do you take extra time and like go into people's streams and check them out? Do you have them like come in and like talk to you before you decide to talk to them? Is there like an audition process, or do you just kind of peep from afar and then decide whether or not you want to talk to them?
So a bit of all of the above.
Okay.
So people that I've found to be supportive on any platform usually move to the head of the line. People that I know or have been around for me to know, again, usually move to the head of the line. And then in between those people, they all live in countries everywhere from Australia to Japan to Europe to South Africa, and to all across the United States. So trying to organize time schedules is a bit of a pickle. But in between those, then I've been doing a lot of just chatting on my own, where I'll literally sit there for like 4.5 hours and just talk to the audience and get feedback and talk to them and have a discussion and talk about different things. And that goes okay, but mostly I do that so that I can pick a random person from the audience to bring on at the time in that pertinent situation. Like, oh, hey, let's have a surprise guest. Let's grab this person out of the audience who was just talking about something super interesting and cool, and let's put them on. Now, of course, it's like, well, I know these people, but you don't necessarily know that I know these people, right? So I'm just like, okay, let's pick somebody that I know. This is going to go pretty well. It's not as randomized and crazy as it may sound. And then it's like, and then we'll have a spontaneous conversation in the midst of it. And then, like I said, I've been trying to experiment a little bit. I was playing a little marbles on stream and whatnot at certain points when things got slow, where I've been trying to kind of do different stuff. And like I said, I've been trying to game a little bit, at least like a few hours every week, just so that people are used to at least seeing me do that occasionally, so that I can still kind of try to add that in. But it's just, the response to other things is so much higher. It's not even worth it to do anymore. It's like, I just feel like I read this article that was like, just game on your own time, man.
It's such an interesting thing because like my goal is to basically I like sharing the gaming experience. So like my goal is to game.
That's
Um,
what my wife said. She goes, you got into this because you love playing video games
yeah.
and you wanted to utilize that as a platform, and now you're just talking. What the hell are you doing?
It's an interesting thing. I like to bring everything in. I do buddy streams, and I'll sit down and like talk. Like we have a podcast coming up next week or this week where we have just three of my buddies. We're gonna get together and just talk about nerdy shit. And like it's you can stream anything now almost. Like I don't know a lot of what you can't stream um,
Oh, bro, I've seen
creating
the
content out of
chickens.
it.
Someone had a chicken. They were like had a camera on their chicken coop. People were just watching the crap out of it. Someone else had some goats, and people were just enthralled.
Oh
I
yeah,
knew a guy that was doing blacksmithing or metalworking. I have another friend that
that's
does
just cool.
woodworking. I have a friend, a friend who's a girl, not a girlfriend, but a friend who's a girl, who she does painting occasionally. I was thinking about doing. In fact, I have a stack of painting supplies right back there, just out of camera, that I've been thinking about. Like, I have a little table right here that I'm going to move over. I'm going to angle the camera down, and I was thinking about doing some painting. I mean, I'm horrible at it, but I'm going to do it anyway. Like, why not? You know,
Well, I
seems like
mean, there's something to be seen of watching someone start and then eventually like get worse, like or get better at something. So like if you start at being horrible and then people can watch your progression of you getting better, that's amazing. That's content.
that's
Nug-
content.
Nugget Meal
And like
over
you said,
here.
anything can be content.
She says
There's
there's
a
a
dude on Twitch that streams a jar of peanut butter, man. I found a guy that streamed his it was on YouTube, not on Twitch, but he was streaming his beehives. He had like 4 or 5 different beehives, and he had cameras set up, and he was just literally streaming the beehives.
Yeah, my sister says that's actually a really interesting process. My sister, what my other sister's in right now. That's HD Hoback, but my other sister, she she's got a beehive at home. She just started up, and she says it's incredibly fascinating to watch the bees kind of like figuring stuff out and like learning the layout of the land and everything. I'm like, I never thought it would be interesting to watch that, but I'm also the dude that'll stare at a lava lamp for like an hour and a half
Right.
for fun. Like it's I don't do that as much anymore. But like when I was a
Too way too
teenager,
busy for that
yeah,
now.
yeah, it's like things to do.
I would if I could, but I don't have time for that anymore.
Yeah, I don't have time. Nugget Meal says watching. Nugget Meal's an artist. She's hopefully going to be streaming. I think in November again soon. Watching people improve with their painting is such an awesome journey. Or you could like follow a Bob Ross tutorial or something. Yeah,
That's a really smart idea. And I love that's why I think Bob Ross and his attitude is what made me originally like want to paint, because it's like he was just like he'd fuck up, right? And he'd be like, it's a bird now, right? It'd be a fucking bird, right? Like you just who cares?
He's a
It's
chill
so
dude.
cool that he was just so chill, but he was so talented at what he did that he was like, even he would make a mistake and then he'd show you, he'd be like, fuck it, it's a bird. And like I do that with cooking sometimes. I'll be like, oh, that's a little too spicy. Let's add a little bit of sweetness and some fat to cut that spicy flavor on the tongue so that it doesn't come across as much. And then we'll add, a little bit of something to like to drown it out a little bit or whatever, and then boom, we'll move forward because you can't take it out. Oops, but now it's a little bit spicier. It's a this instead. It's the food turns into a bird too. Hopefully not bird shit though.
Well, so that kind of brings in the next topic. Like you're a trained chef, right? Yeah, like you have a really interesting. I was listening to your story. I'm like, this is super cool. Like you were talking about your experiences and stuff, and then you talked about you want to do cooking streams at some point. You said you need to get a laptop. Which
Yeah, I've been trying to figure out how technically how to make this happen. Right. One of the very first things I wanted to do is do some cooking streams, because at first it's like, yeah, I'm a trained chef. I have over 10 years of experience in the restaurant. I've worked predominantly in sushi bars and Japanese restaurants on all different, like every position there is in the restaurant. I've worked at a lot of American fine dining steakhouses, rib joints. I went to culinary school after being a chef in the kitchen for extra training and to understand the fundamentals that all the people that couldn't teach me that I wanted to know. And then the culinary school I went to was actually French fine dining. So it's like I have a varied experience in knowledge of cooking and food techniques and all of the different things that are out there. Um, I people love food, right? I love food, people love food, and people love learning how to cook and cook better. And my very first initial idea, before I ever stumbled across any of the co-streaming or interviews or anything like that, was I wanted to do a culinary training, basically a cooking school that you could go to online that was super casual, but that you could learn the kind of things that they would teach you in an actual culinary school and not on a shitty YouTube video where they were just like, here, let's make this. I wanted to, me and my wife were talking about, she was like, you're the kind of chef who wants to share those secrets that you've learned with other people because you don't care. You're going to learn more secrets. You're going to move on. And there's no amount of single secrets that's going to catch somebody who doesn't know how to cook up to somebody like you who's been learning these secrets constantly for, over 10 years. So you don't have anything to worry about. There's no ego there. And all you want to do is share all of your knowledge as fast as you can with other people to help them be able to teach themselves how to cook. The old adage of teach a man to fish, give a man a fish, And that's something that I wanted to learn for me my whole life to benefit my whole life. I don't want to eat shitty food. When I was a kid, my parents were not that great of cooks. I got tired of eating crappy food really fast and learned how to cook on my own. I had a number of very independent experiences that made me very, very independent. My mom kicked me out when I was 14. Literally, here's a futon in the garage. Go live your life. That's it. That's all my responsibility legally to you is to provide a place for you to sleep. Boom, done. And so as a 14-year-old, you can't go get a job. There's not a whole lot of economic opportunity for you there.
There's not.
And as a high school dropout at the time, basically, because that's part of what it caused all of this to happen. I'm not saying it's not my fault. I'm not saying my mom's this terrible person. I'm just saying this is what happened, right? Through these experiences, it taught me that, well, A, you can't rely on anyone else in this life. You need to take care of yourself and you need to know how. And B, I spent so many years just struggling to survive, eating whatever I could, kind of trying to come across money any way that I could. And you get to this point where you're like, I want more than that, right? Like I can't afford to live in this luxury lifestyle, or I can't afford or whatever. But what you can afford usually is to upgrade your food a bit. You know what I mean? And usually that doesn't even cost more money. It just costs more knowledge. And I realized young that knowledge is key. Knowledge is power. Knowledge will take you places. When you're 14 and you can't get a job, but you know some things that other people don't, like where to get the weed, that knowledge will pay you and cause you to be able to eat, right?
That makes sense. So I mean, let's go back to this cooking tutorial thing. You're talking about, is this still something you want to do, is to be able to do this place?
I'd be doing it once a week if I could figure out how. With the technology, cool. If I could figure out how to make it actually happen, I would be doing it once a week already. I already have a basic curriculum lined out. I have a number of different lessons, from knife skills to foundational skills, a number of different recipes lined out that teach you different things like braising, simmering, baking, which, think baking is simple, but baking is really not that simple. There's all different kinds of things you can bake, from a beef Wellington to a cake, right? And you're baking those things in different ways. So even that is not necessarily a simple thing. But I would like to teach all the different fundamentals, everything from baking, roasting, broiling, braising, grilling. I'd like to teach people how to smoke meats. I like to teach them all the different fundamentals like knife work, how to block vegetables and different things like that, how to make, just all kinds of different things, all the different egg recipes out there, all the different ways there is to utilize an egg, everything from an egg in a cake to a hard-boiled egg to an egg in a souffle to an egg in a custard to egg in a hollandaise, all different ways, all different preparations, all different varieties. Teach a lot of different types of food, but mostly what I want to teach people is how to think and act like a chef, right? Like how to season to taste and how to understand what that means and what that tastes like and how that feels in your head when you've hit that line of boom, everything's popping, everything's right there. This is the point that it needs to be at. and just all of the things that you wouldn't necessarily get from a common cooking tutorial or from a common thing. I'd like to delve extremely deep into it. I'd like to have like a camera that shows the food and a camera that shows my hands, so you can literally see everything that I can do. You see how I cut, how I hold my fingers, how I hold the food, how I move it, and we get these in-depth teaching lessons that teach you how to literally cook yourself into being a chef.
So, have you tried? One of the things that I tried, and I just didn't have quite enough equipment on me, but it was definitely cheaper than a laptop. Because if I had a laptop, I could do a lot of stuff that I'd love to do a lot easier. I think anybody could really do like really diversify their stream if they had just a streaming laptop specifically.
I
But like,
totally agree with that.
I used my phone there for a little bit. I tried a couple cooking streams, just recipes out of like I found a book that was like recipes from movies and stuff, and so I would try and do a couple of those. Like I did the noodles from Chef, the movie with John Favreau. And like,
Love that movie.
yeah, it's a great movie, and so I you know I tried doing the noodles and stuff, and so I used my phone. I popped it up on a tripod, or you know I really want one of those twisty tripods because then it would make it like a lot easier. You can just put them anywhere. But then
Oh yeah.
I was trying a lav mic, but then the lav mic that plugs into my phone, that like it limits where you can put the thing, which then makes it a little more difficult. But like if I could figure out how to make it work with my phone, and it's like a little bit cheaper, but it's just a little more limiting to what you want to do. Like it's if I had like I'm telling you, I feel you on the laptop thing. If I had a streaming laptop, I could do so many things.
Well, I think so. Yeah. And then I realized that there might be other ways to do it, right? Like I thought about doing it with my phone, but like I don't even have the basic mic. I have a Blue Yeti, and there's no way the Blue Yeti is plugging into my phone.
Right? Well,
So unless, I mean, I could use my gaming headset and I could use the microphone from my gaming headset, and that will Bluetooth to my computer since it's wireless. So I could use that as a microphone while I use, but I need both of my hands to cook. And I also want to be able to show off what my hands are doing and then to be able to show off the food as well as it's cooking. And so like I thought about doing a camera, or I mean the phone. I also just found some, I don't know if this is a dumb idea or not, but I found some wireless security cameras on Newegg the other day that were on like discounted sale. So they were like, it was like $230 for both of them, but it was like $97 because they were open box sale. So it was like $97 for the two cameras. They were wireless connectivity, but I think you still need to connect them to power. But I thought, well, if I could find a way to connect them to power, and I could just mount one like on the ceiling and have that point at the stove so you could see in the oven and on the stovetop, and then have the other one like mounted under the cabinet, and then that's just pointing straight down at the cutting board. But and looking at the specs and different things people had to say about them, you can actually stream definitely to YouTube from some of those wireless cameras. But I just was afraid to spend over $100 on
and then
some
find
stuff
out it doesn't work.
Find out it doesn't work, or there was some little issue or something else, because I just didn't know enough about it. So I was just like, eh. So yeah, I'm in the, but I have some stuff I'm gonna sell probably, like these fish tanks. So I was running one of my previous businesses, the most recent one that I was doing, as I was actually running a fish breeding farm. So I have a room in my house that used to be the master bedroom. And now it's the fish room. Well, it was until we recently just took it down, but I had about 18 different fish tanks in there, something like 3,400 gallons of water.
Oh, wow.
So I have racks of tanks. Most of them are acrylic tanks, professional quality, that came actually out of fish stores that closed down. And so I have some equipment from some stuff like that. And so lately I've been cleaning it out of the master. I've been moving my wife back into the master, and I've been trying to set it up so that I can sell off some of this equipment. I have a truck outside. So like I said, my son's got to go to homeschool this year. and I have to purchase him a computer because I need to work on this computer, so he can't be homeschooling on it all day.
Yeah.
So I've got to buy him a computer to homeschool with, but also to help him start the schedule to make his YouTube videos. We've made a few, we've done some basic stuff like that, but we haven't actually gotten him started because I'm so busy trying to get me started, you know? But anyway, I have a truck outside parked out right out here actually. My wife we misplaced the title like 2 or 3 years ago when we were doing some cleaning, and so I just found the title, so I can sell the truck, and I can get hopefully my son the computer, and then I have a rack of fish tanks. So I have like 8 20-gallon acrylic tanks and the racks to set those on that are all in a set, and so I'm going to try and sell that, and hopefully be able to use that to buy the laptop.
Okay.
Because like you said, the laptop is so much more useful than just doing a cooking stream. But literally with the laptop, usually you have an onboard camera with a laptop. So you can point that at the cutting board or at me, and you can see me right off the bat. I can plug in a camera and point that at the food or anything else that I want. And literally right off the bat, you've got everything that you need to do a cooking stream, and hands-free. So, but like you said, there's so many other things that you can do. You can connect it to your phone wirelessly, and you can go out and IRL stream or do a ton of other things.
Yeah, there are things like the podcasting I do. I'd love to be able to change the environment that I do it in. I have friends who have way better sets than I would ever have, but I'm not going to carry my desktop all the way over to their house, you know. My 2 monitors, my desktop, my lighting, all of that, you know. It's like I might carry my microphones and, you know, my cameras, but I don't really want to lug an entire desktop. So that, you know, you could do podcasting in different environments. You could go and you could find other people who stream art or other people who do art and stream them doing art. You can get other friends into streaming as a networking opportunity. There's a million things. That's why I have like the guy who's coming over today to do the retro streams. That's why I have him come over, is to add diversity, but also get him into it. So someday, if he feels that he can invest in it, he can show off his skills, because he plays the most random, difficult retro games, and he does it for fun. And I'm like, you should be
I
streaming
love people
this.
who do that.
Yeah, I'm like, this should be your content. And he just, like, unfortunately, he just can't get his laptop to do it because it doesn't work with the capture card that I have. Doesn't, because I gave him my capture card. I'm like, take this. We had to bring it back here because it doesn't work with his USB hubs. Like, I think he's got 1.0
no.
and he needs 2.0. Otherwise, his computer would be able to. I could make his computer process it just fine.
That sucks, man.
Yeah.
Damn.
But it's like one of those things. Yeah, I could take a laptop over to his place. You know,
So many different things. I want to stream, dude. Check this. I want to stream from a museum. I want to go into a museum and find some dope background, and then just sit there on the bench and IRL stream and chit chat with people for like an hour or something.
That's
Wouldn't that be
cool.
awesome? Or
That
like a
would be.
waterfall, or like some, you know, fountain or waterfall or something like that. And just streaming off your phone.
Have you ever heard of DJ Lark? She does.
Like, that sounds familiar, but
She does. So she DJs for her streams. She does beach streams sometimes, where she goes out to the beach and streams, and it's a really funny conversation actually, where we talked about the first time she ever did that. She was she. I go, can the people on the beach hear the music? And she's like, no. So there's a bunch of people kind of surrounding her, watching her DJ by herself, but no ability. That's so funny.
you can't hear it. That's awesome.
The people can't hear it, but the people watching the stream can hear it, but nobody on the beach can hear it. So it's just if you could just imagine someone silently DJing to themselves, you know, every now and then, like, what's up? But I mean, that it's so cool because it adds a new factor. Like, what's it like to stream in public when no one else knows what's going on, you know? And then you get to like explain to people like, this is what I'm doing. Why don't you come to this side and see what I'm doing, you know?
Right. Or even just like at a cafe or a Starbucks at a cool little place. Or I'd like to do other food related streams, right? Like, we could go to some of my favorite places to go eat in Seattle, like the oh god, what's it called? Katsu Burger. Freaking Katsu Burger. They take a burger and they chicken katsu fry it, and then they make a burger out of it. It's crazy. It's so good.
You could do like I mean, this is something that I would do. I don't think anyone else, I don't know who else would. But you could do like those big eating competitions. You could stream yourself trying to do one of those. You
That'd be
know,
awesome.
did you see that CC's one? I wanted to do that, but I found it ended. It was like a 28, so two people, a 28 inch pizza, and two large drinks, like 32-ounce drinks, in 2 hours. And I'm like, I could do that. Like,
Yeah, that doesn't sound that
sounds
difficult.
super
I think me
easy.
and my wife could do that.
Yeah.
Jeez.
I could do that by myself in 2 hours.
Right.
And I'm like, that would be a funny stream, just watching me just shovel pizza. But then there's things that like I definitely can't, like I can't do the stuff where they're like, eat the 2 large baskets of fries with this giant absurd burger. And I'm like, that's where they get you, is they make you eat the fries. And I'm like, I can't do that. But you do the Buffalo
I
Wild
won't
Wing
finish the
challenge,
fries.
Yeah, the fries are just, that's too much for me.
Pizza, I could eat pizza all damn day, but those fries, I get like 5 fries in me and I'm done.
Right? They just weigh you down. That's the smartest part about the competition is all the fries. Oh hey, House of Dub, how's it going? Welcome in. Sweet Lord, his podcast is making me hungry. Oh, well, if you're not hungry by the end of a podcast, you haven't talked about food enough. That's
For real. I think I'm gonna go make breakfast after this. Chorizo biscuits bechamel.
Oh, it's V-Dub. Oh, how's it going, V-Dub? V-Dub was our last interview. So I don't know if you got to see his interview, but it was really fun as well.
Oh, nice. Hell yeah.
So that's the one I sent you. V-Dub, I've been sending out your interview as the example interview right now. And then yours will be the next. So we're kind of coming up. Bless you, kind sir. Oh, nice. So I kind of wanted to, so we're getting kind of closer to the end of the podcast. So I kind of wanted to wrap up with a few extra questions. First one,
For sure.
where did your Twitch name come from?
Oh man. So when I was a teenager, God, like 20 years ago, I guess. When I was about 18 to 20, I was involved, specifically those years. For about 10 years, I was involved in community theater. Specifically those years, I worked for a community theater company that we taught kids how to act. And my co-director of the company was a really good friend of mine who was really interested in like Gaelic things. And so he had a Gaelic dictionary and we were looking through and we were trying to find all kinds of different like stupid shit to learn and say. And one of the things that we stumbled upon was this kind of like, it was this Gaelic slang sort of. And then we made sort of a slur off of that slang in Gaelic that became what I eventually adopted as a name. But basically it's a Gaelic slang that means go fuck yourself. But because we were kids, man, we were young and we were just like, yeah, go fuck yourself, man. But we're going to hide that in this really interesting Gaelic slang that sounds cool. And then instead of saying that to people, weirdly, I ended up adopting that as a handle online. And then literally just it's so easy because like it's not like I log into a game and I try and type in my name and anybody's ever taken my name, right? Unless I've been there, it ain't taken, you know? And so it made it so I didn't have to think of a different name every time I played a new MMO, or I didn't have to like come up with a new thing every time I tried to log on to a whatever, this or that. And so I ended up just keeping the handle and adopting it as a oh, that's funny. Your chat's so funny. Just kind of keeping that handle and adopting it because it just became easier than trying to change into anything else. It's a little bit difficult, right? And especially when I first started getting on Twitch, I was like, oh wow, maybe people aren't gonna like know how to say my name and that's gonna be a problem. And like, but the other side of that coin is it's extremely memorable. If you've ever seen my name and you ever see me again, you know that you've seen me, you know? And so I don't know, it's a bit of a double-edged sword.
Okay. I mean, I think I like that there's that behind it. There's a whole story there. I wish Like mine's just kind of my name, you know. I've tried other things before and they've been okay handles. Like the one that I so my nickname in high school was Snuggles, but that one's clearly always going to be taken. Like there's never going to be a point where I have that. So um that's cool though when you get like a nice long story because people are like, where'd your gamer tag or Twitch handle come from? And I'm like, it's my name. Like,
It's
oh
my name.
okay. Yeah.
That's cool.
It's like, yep, that's it. So, and then last question. I always like to ask people like what advice that they might have for like aspiring streamers so far. And I know it seems like you might be, especially right now. I think it's great because you're kind of going through the ropes. You're learning and stuff. So, what have you adapted so far that you would like that you would share with someone, especially if they were just starting out?
I would say the first thing is don't get discouraged and don't give up. You know, you may be streaming to 0 viewers for a month, 2 months, 6 months, even, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you can't do this, right? Like everybody starts from the bottom, everybody starts from nowhere, and everybody that makes it somewhere eventually finds that path there. I would say that the best thing about Twitch right now is that it's evolving, right? Like it used to be just about games, mostly first person shooters, and unless you were freaking Olympic level, you probably weren't going to get a following. But now it's not so much like that. I literally have become a just chatting streamer. People are like, what games do you stream? I'm a just chatting streamer. Right? I don't necessarily have a podcast ironed out. I don't necessarily have this stuff. I literally am just a just chatting streamer. People are like, well, what the hell is that? That is the platform evolving. There's creative, there's just chatting. There's so many different things that you can do as content. Don't get bogged down in having to do what everybody else does, but also don't try and reinvent the wheel and fight against everything that's out there. Ride the wave of evolution that's happening on Twitch. Find your place, find your own space, develop your voice, and spend time working on the quality of your own content. You know, I saw Eddie Murphy said recently that if you can make them laugh, you will have followers for life. And I constantly think about that.
How do you incorporate that in? Zentus, what's your question? But how do you incorporate that in? Who is this guy? Zentus, we've been talking about that for an hour. um, Zentus is actually a fun story about Zentus. He is my first, probably my oldest viewer. Zentus has been here since the beginning. He is Russian,
Wow.
and for the long, I've been probably doing this for 5 or 6 years, and
Jeez.
Zentus has been
Wow.
there for almost the beginning. Especially when I was really finding my rhythm, he popped in, and he's from time to time, you know, because one of the hardest things about Twitch is surviving life and continuing to Twitch. And so that has been one of the most difficult things about this for me. And so every time I come back, Zentus eventually shows back up and says, "Hey, how's it going?" And then we catch up. I get to hear about his life and stuff and how everything's going for him. So that's really cool.
Isn't that awesome? Isn't that an awesome part about Twitch and about streaming, about being a broadcaster and a content creator? Those friendships, those connections that you make with people. Like, isn't that the most golden part of it all?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. And that's why, like, whenever, so each person, most of my regulars have a sound effect that plays whenever they pop in. So Zentus is a bear whenever he pop, and he's got a really cool bear story. Um, Nuggy Meal. I mean, I just did chicken nuggets because her name reminds me of chicken nuggets. Uh, she was like my top clipper probably 5 or 6 months ago. She would clip everything for me, and there's so many moments from Red Dead Redemption 2 that just survive. HD Hoback, a heart plays. She's my sister. She donated this PC that I'm using right now. Her and her husband, who is sandworm. And he has like Matt Damon because I just remember when I was a kid he used to always make the Matt Damon jokes. uh,
That's funny.
so I mean, cool stuff, you know, great connections and stuff. But Zentus is Russian, so he doesn't always pick up everything that's said right away. Um, so and he came in pretty late, so he'll you'll have to rewatch the interview sometime, Zentus, if you get a chance, because we've kind of explained who this guy is for about an hour now. I have to go back though. I have to think for a second. You was smart. You was kind. So we were talking about. I had a great question lined up there for a second. So we were talking about what you were like, what your advice was, not giving up and stuff, getting over that zero hump. Yeah, I got lost after that. I'm sorry.
I think you were asking how I was applying that advice to my own stream right now.
Well, yeah, let's ask that. What would you, yeah, derailed. That's perfect. How are you applying that? Oh, friendly games. Welcome. How's it going? Welcome in. Embarrassed you? I'm sorry, Zentus. You shouldn't be embarrassed. You should be proud of who you are. And I'm very proud to say that you are my oldest viewer. Big smiles. Okay. There we go. So how have you been applying that to your stream so far?
Well, it's like you said, surviving life and continuing to stream is one of the most difficult parts of this, and then add on 2 children and an autistic son on top of that. And then you have a whole message of busyness. I'd say that the first thing that I do, especially, is develop a schedule and then a system around that schedule so that you can help implement everything, right? Like, you need to work on your channel. You need to work on your page. You need to work on your background. If you're doing Twitter, you need to work on your Twitter, and as you're doing all these things, you have to make time for not only your family, your kids, your SO, and whoever else is in your life, your friends and whatnot, but you got to make some time for yourself. And I think for me right now, I'm trying to find the balance of how many hours per month I can actually put in, but to find my growth, but also how much of my time that I can spare for my kids and my wife, and my family and myself. So I think it's all about like trying to find a balance, but it's also about keeping a schedule, staying consistent. That's like if you're working Twitter, if you're working on Twitch, if you're working any of these platforms, especially YouTube, Twitter, being consistent is one of the most important things that you can do. It's almost more important than the content or the quality of your content at that point. By staying consistent and keep pushing. So for me, I have a daily schedule. I have a daily routine. I spend usually about 10 hours a day, something like 28 days a month doing this right now. And then I try to make sure that I find some time each week to spend some time with my wife. I definitely get out with my kids to go to the park or do something kind of special for them. And just try to find a balance with it all while I'm trying to kind of make my way through the sea of Twitch.
Yeah, I think that's the most difficult thing for any like dedicated Twitch streamer. One of the things that I learned the most from Harris Heller was he talked about the idea of as much time as you put into Twitch, like streaming, you should be putting in more working on your stream. So then you have to schedule out not only streaming, but then putting in the time to improve the quality of your stream, improve your like thinking about
watch
your stream.
Your VODs.
Yeah,
maybe
watch your VODs.
Which, most people don't even do that. If you don't watch your own VODs and you don't see the quality of the content that's coming out, how the hell will you know what you're doing? How can you grow?
And you have to think about your stream. How are you going to incorporate it? How are you going to market it? How are you, what says this about your brand? Are you working on Twitter? Are you working on this? So then on top of that, for me, I have to weave in. I work, a part-time job. I exercise. I go for I run a 5K 3 times a week, and I'm still fat. That's lovely. You know, I cook for my wife. I spend time with my wife. I try to spend time with my family. Um, on top of that, you have to balance out. Say, like since I'm trying to diversify my content, I have this with you. You know, I do these streamer interviews, so I try and work with the schedule of the people. I do I do the stuff with the guy who's coming in to do retro streams, do the podcast. So I'm trying to respect other people's schedules at the same time while dealing with the chaos of life and trying to get like that little ounce of time for myself. It's the most complicated thing, and if you don't make a schedule for that, I don't think it can work. Like it's so hard to just
I didn't have a
wing
schedule
it,
at first. I just burned as long and as hard as I could until I passed out for a couple of days and then got started 2 days later.
It's so
I was
hard.
running 29, 30 days a month when I very first started, just like no time off, no breaks. I think I took a half a day off in a month at the very beginning. Took my kids to the park for like literally 4 hours. I cook most nights I cook dinner for the family. And then we'll hang out and I'll hang out with my wife while we're eating and we'll watch a little show or something. But yeah, it's hard, man.
Yeah.
It's hard when you're trying to make that progress and you're the only employee and you're the only one who can push it forward.
Oh yeah. Well, and when I was trying to do the podcast, you're trying to encourage other people to kind of help out, but ultimately, if it's the thing that you want to do, it's on you to make it happen. And
Absolutely.
so it's a push, and I laughed at like there was this kind of rejection. There's this interesting rejection on Twitter about being careful as to what terms you use. So like there's the obvious like don't say support small streamers because you're not a small streamer. You're just a big streamer that's in a small window right now. And it's like okay, whatever. But then they get to this point where they're talking about I lost it again. There's just it's the defining of terms. I lost it. Sorry, it's gone.
I think that's true. There is a lot of terms and terminology that you're not supposed to use on Twitter technically or whatever. And I think
a grind. There's the rejection of the word the grind. They say that's insulting to your viewers because it makes them feel like the grind. It's like, no, you are the reward. But if you don't think that this is a grind, you're being way too optimistic. There are grind elements to this. It can be a fun grind. I do think that's true. I think that's true. I think there's a fun grind, and I don't think people. I think people get caught up with it. Grind. The grind is like a term, Nuggy Meal, that we use when we're talking about. It's kind of like when you're out there trying to gain XP in a game. A lot of Twitch streamers use their like day-to-day streaming. They say that that's the grind, and then it makes the viewers feel like they're a burden as opposed to. But they're the reward.
I like to be a little more specific. I think for me, the grind is like actually marketing yourself out there, growing your reach and your audience is the real grind. It's not the audience themselves for sure. They're the reward.
They get offended. They're like, you're making me feel bad. And it's like, no, I think you have to look at it the way that it is. Like the work is the grind,
I think that's a problem that most people don't understand. Unless you've streamed in a way that wasn't, hey, I'm just going to play some video games and have some fun and just stream because I enjoy it, right? That's fine. If that's what you do, that's totally fine. And I'm not saying anything bad against you, but that's easy. Okay. That's fucking easy. It's easy to put on a video game and to just play it and to not care, hang out, maybe chit chat if somebody comes by and whatevs. That's easy. Now, when you're literally trying to look at it like I hate saying like a business because it's not like a business, even though it is like a business if you're trying to take it seriously.
If you're taking it seriously, it's a business. Ask Harris Heller.
But I know that's it's something you can't say it's a business because people don't want to feel like they're a dollar sign, and they're not.
Yeah. Well, they're the reward, though.
I used to focus on analytics, and I'd be like, look, I grew 1,000 followers in my first 28 days on Twitter. That's true.
That's awesome.
Most people did not. Most people did not do that. Most people did not do that. And so when I say that provides me a little bit of authority in a certain area, right? But at the same time, people are like, well, I'm not just a number. all you care about is your numbers.
They don't
No,
see the positive. Then that's the thing.
I,
Like people are so triggered sometimes, and it's like, no, you have to like you aren't. I don't think people are just a number. I think we are all naturally a number in some way, shape, or another, but we're more than that.
since statistics
You know.
were invented, you're a number.
Yeah, like we're a number in some aspect, but we're also more than that. And I think you should be respecting the streamers that see you as both.
And
Like,
that's what I try to tell people is like, it's not about numbers. Numbers are the factual information that I can show you that you can't dispute. Okay.
yeah,
Numbers are the thing that you can't say, well, no, you didn't. Well, yes, I did. Okay. Then look at the numbers, right?
Yeah.
But it's not about the numbers. The numbers are just the factual information that you can't dispute that I can use to show you what we've been doing. What's
and
more
process.
important in the process, but what's more important than that is the personal connections that you're making with
Yeah.
people, or you would never have been able to do that.
Yeah.
So you're not a number, you're a personal connection. You're a friend that I've made or that I'm trying to make. That's it.
I agree with that. I just think people are very triggered on terms like using the grind or making them feel like a number somehow. It's like,
Or saying it's a
Just-
business.
yeah, just calm down and
Well, they're
understand
so
that there's
hypersensitive.
yeah,
now.
there's
Everybody's
more than
like,
one thing.
especially on the internet.
And
Yeah,
that
there
drives
is
me
more than
crazy.
one.
The support small streamers thing. They say don't use that, otherwise people just won't watch you. So now we have this unofficial ban on people who use the term support small streamers, and I'm like, and then they have this weird thing behind it where they say you're not a small streamer, you're a big streamer waiting to be discovered, and it's like, leave that hippie stuff at home.
Like I
you
mean,
know?
I get what look, it's good to be hopeful and it's good to have a goal, right? But also it's good to be realistic and reasonable about like reality.
Yeah, it drives me nuts because I'm like, you have to understand, like, at this point, this is my viewer number. I am a small streamer, but one day I would like to be a big streamer, and I might be a big streamer.
It's like saying my kids are adults. They're just adults. They're just adults trapped in kids' bodies.
Yeah, they're just
no, they're not. They're kids.
They're just
They
people
don't know
waiting
shit.
to be adults. Yeah, but they're still children.
Yeah, and if you don't teach them how to be an adult along the way, they'll never actually be an adult.
It gives
If
me a
you don't
headache.
learn the skills that you need to become a large streamer along the way, you will never be a large streamer. I mean, not you specifically,
Yeah.
people in general, streamers in general. If you don't learn, there's a reason why people have a following. There's a reason why people are more entertaining than others. There's a reason why people have managed to create certain types of content and that have gotten noticed, like people like Dr. Disrespect. He worked for 4 years at streaming before he ever got discovered. Ninja's been streaming something like 10 or 11 years
Holy
now.
cow.
Like,
So
people don't look at the grind. They don't look at the work. They don't look at the journey. They're just like, oh, well, the now. Look at the now. Well, you're a big streamer in small streamer shoes. Well, he got lucky one day. No, he didn't fucking get lucky. He worked his ass off for 10 years.
Yeah, and he kept an eye on the numbers, and now he pays people to keep the eye on the numbers for him. Speaking of,
You don't think that's a business? You're mistaken. Like, hello, people.
Speaking of, okay, so since we tripped onto the ninja topic, and Zentus just posed this question a little bit, what do you think about this whole Mixer platform thing?
I think if you went to Mixer after Ninja did, you were doing it wrong.
Yes.
If you were on Mixer before Ninja was, then you were probably doing it right, and good kudos to you. But if you're following on the coattails of something like that and you think, okay, so yeah, it's a smaller pond and you may be a little bit bigger of a fish in a smaller pond, but there's also a lot smaller of an audience. And if you waited out for long enough for that platform to grow into a larger audience, if you have a long-term mindset like that, a business-oriented plan where you're like, I'm going to go there because it's young, I'm going to wait, I'm going to put my time in here instead of there. By the time it grows in an audience, I've grown as a broadcaster, and I'm going to gain the benefit of that platform having made it into its own in that time, then probably good. Yeah, that's smart, but it's probably going to take you a few years to get there. If you think that it's just, other than that, if you're just jumping ship for any other reason, I think people are, that it's going to go back the other way very soon, because they're going to realize that that's a much smaller audience, it's a much smaller space, and people were already there before you were to have already kind of established themselves. And I think as much as we're seeing a rush of people from Twitch to Mixer right now, in a month or two, we're going to see a rush of people right back from Mixer to Twitch.
This is so Zentus. I think Zentus is talking about Ninja specifically. He says, "I don't know about you, but in Russia, everyone is tired of this asshole."
I thought he was talking about me.
No, I don't think so. I don't think. I mean, you may have blown up secretly in Russia and no one knew.
Everyone hates this asshole.
Everyone's talking about Ninja. Yeah, Ninja. I don't have an issue with Ninja. I think Ninja is successful in his own right. I think he's not for me to watch because he's not the content that I want to consume. But there's something to be said about the popular content. Interesting parallel I will draw to Ninja. I look at him as the Teen Titans Go of Twitch, in the sense that Teen Titans Go is definitely not my content. I do not like that show. I like the original Teen Titans. It's just, I've tried watching Teen Titans Go. It's fine, but it's just not my content. But it is incredibly popular, and for a very specific reason, is it fits a lot of people that want to watch that. He's not even half as interesting as me. Well, thank you. But I mean,
it's his hair, man. You got to bleach your hair some crazy colors and you'll just blow up.
Well, so
even Harris Heller talks about that.
I can't do it because so far I've got a girl. One of our next interviews, Fabiana, she keeps telling me I look like Guy Fieri, and I think if I bleach my hair, I look exactly like Guy Fieri.
Yeah, you'd look a lot more like Guy Fieri for sure. I get what you're saying.
There's no way I could do it.
I saw a formula on one of Harris Heller's videos where your Twitch growth is exponentially tied to the amount of hair dye that you're using.
I've seen that. Yeah, I've seen that. It's hilarious.
The thing that I learned from him, like you were mentioning earlier about what you would learn from him, but it's so funny because I learned something very completely different from him. Like if I was going to say the number one thing I learned from him, the number one thing I learned from him was to create original content on another platform to grow an audience and then direct those people towards Twitch.
So like if I were to say like Twitter, I think Twitter is the most useful tool, but he talks about YouTube, and it's like, how do you have enough time? Most of these people are not just doing this. Most of the people are working a job. They're trying to balance family. They're trying to balance staying healthy. They're trying to do this and that. And then, to start original content on YouTube, because it's not even taking the content that you're making and placing it in other places, like making clips and stuff. He says, that's not going to help. He says, make this original content on YouTube. And it's like, that's so much work.
It doesn't have to be YouTube, though. Everybody thinks he's always talking about YouTube. It can be anywhere. I don't do YouTube.
That's his main...
That's what he's doing, though. But he says a number of times he doesn't just mean YouTube. But yes, YouTube would be very beneficial if you had the extra time to be making YouTube content, or if you had some sort of outlet like that you could do that. You were making your painting videos and then you were drawing people from that to your painting streams or like whatever. And that's why I don't use YouTube yet, because I haven't found the outlet for it. But Twitter can be just as an effective a vehicle as growing your audience as YouTube ever was. But Twitter takes an assload of time too to focus on and to grow. So
yeah, I just I think the place that's the most useful. But again, it's a counter. So the other thing, I learned from Guy Level, where he's talking about this idea of like Twitter, where if you're talking, you're mostly talking to streamers. So if you're talking to them, you're building this big streaming community, but everybody's out to stream. So it's getting to talk to people who would watch Twitch that aren't just streamers, that are like actual viewers, is the complicated thing. Like, how do you do that?
Why is being a streamer automatically exclude them from being a viewer.
Well, and
Right?
that's
Some of my biggest supporters, donators, sub donors, biddies dones, are streamers.
I would agree with you there, but not every streamer is going to watch each other. You know what I mean?
Absolutely,
You're not going to be able to
sure.
support each other. The time's so limited.
There's
You,
tons of ways to reach outside of just a streamer community on Twitch or on Twitter specifically. Like, I was doing this thing where I was doing some gaming news for a while. I was following like GamesBeat magazine or some other places, and when they'd have a reasonable and interesting article, I would either make a post about it linking to the original article so that it all linked back to me, or doing something similar to that, and find that just putting out game related information brought in people that were interested in gaming. I did another test where I penetrated a huge portion of West Africa, um, through some testing with some people. I ended up responding on a post, and then I ended up getting like 150 or more people from West Africa that were either streamers, game related, marketing, or business related people. And it was like, I don't know anybody in West Africa. It was reaching completely outside of any of the circles that I had ever had anything to do with.
that's super
So,
interesting, though. So, how do you approach doing a test then?
oh man, there's all kinds of different ways, right? Like, a lot of times it's really about being social. It's so simple. You are just conversating with people, but you're digging through your timeline and you're conversating with people that you don't normally interact with. And a lot of times I've had people go, "Wow, you just came out of nowhere with the massive support." Right? And that's what I try and do each time. If you don't know me, I try to come out of nowhere with a massive support. What do you need? How can I benefit you? How can we get you to where you want to go? And people go, "Wow, that's awesome. Let's help this guy, or let's promote this guy. Let's turn around and support this guy."
Okay.
And it happens over and over and over and over again.
That's interesting. So that's the thing. I'm not saying like you don't want to have streamers as your viewers, but you have to
I
be
get exactly what you're
aware
saying.
and careful of the trap of just hitting just streamers. You know what I mean? Like you want to have you want to have a mix. You
I
don't
get
want
what you're
just streaming
saying.
people.
Sure.
So it's interesting, but like you were talking about, because you do talk about like how much you get into marketing, like how much you think about marketing, and you talked about how you grew to 1,000. How do you start that conversation? What are the ways that you start the reaching out phase? Okay, so and I think that fits. So you talk.
There is no reaching out phase, right? Like, I literally will just be like, just make a supportive comment, right? Just when somebody says a post about, "Hey, I'm one streamer, I'm one number away from being, affiliate," right? And I'm like, I'll make a supportive comment. "That's really awesome. Great job. Glad to see that you've made it this far. Congratulations." And then I'll like the content and I'll retweet it. And then all the people that follow me will see that and go follow them and go help get them to affiliate. And they go, "Holy shit, man. When this guy retweeted my stuff, it blew up. And all of a sudden I had 10 extra likes, 2 more retweets, and 5 other comments. People rushed to my thing. And the goal that I thought was going to take me to the end of the month to reach, we literally reached in between 15 minutes and 3 hours. That had happened 100 times. And then they're like, "Well, holy shit, what can I do for you? How can I help you?" And I don't do that for other people's help, but I continuously find that people want to reciprocate.
Okay, so talking about, you went from, you told me, you said you got over 1,000 followers in less than a month on Twitter. What approach did you take? Is that what you did, or were there other
Man.
did you tweet something that like blew up? I'm not trying to get like what's the secret.
No,
But,
okay.
like,
So part of what I did is I
what
found a
was your
sponsor.
perspective?
I had a friend who had about 35,000 followers, and he would occasionally retweet some of the interesting and pertinent things that I would tweet. So every maybe 1 in 20 tweets or 1 in 100 tweets or something he would find interesting, and he would make a comment on, like it, and retweet it. And then instead of 20, I started off with 23 followers. So I've had a Twitter account since 2014, but I've never used it. I had 6 tweets or something like that in its lifetime. I started on June 23rd. I had 23 followers on the account on June 23rd. By August 23rd, I had like 1,257 followers, I think, something like that. And basically, between finding a sponsor who had a large number of followers who would occasionally retweet my stuff to get me out there much further than I could on my own, between posting an average, I think I posted 2,000 tweets in a month was my average at that rate. I worked on Twitter 10 to 12 hours a day plus for 28 days straight without taking any time off except for eating dinner. And I interacted with and communicated with as many people as I possibly could on a daily basis. So I was just screaming through my timeline, commenting on everybody's stuff, trying to constantly make different comments that were always unique, that always were true and came from the heart, and hopefully made people feel a reaction of emotion, of a positive emotion.
Okay. That's awesome. That's a grind. I would say that's a fair grind.
I'm on track for another 1,000 followers this month as well.
Nice.
This will be my
Congratulations.
second month, and I'm pushing 1,750 followers right now.
That's awesome. Well, I think we have to kind of wind down to the end of the stream here. I have to actually take a little bit of time to prep for the retro stream coming up here, guys. So if you guys hang out for a little bit, we're going to be back here soon. Nick's going to be popping in. This time we're going to beat the NES Classic title Shatterhands.
Ooh, nice game.
Yeah. We played that last week, and we just ran out of time. I don't understand why I was muddied. I do have to apologize, Zentus. You used a word that set up a ban, so I do apologize, but we can't. Just be careful about the words you use here. Also, man, it was a little bit of an offensive tweet or message that you put out there, kind of talking about we're not here to bag on anybody who bleaches their hair. So, I'm just gonna say that, man. Like it was an offensive thing you said. So just be careful, what you're saying and stuff there. So yeah, we're gonna be back here in a little bit. Next interview, it's either going to be a week from Tuesday or it's going to be 2 weeks from Tuesday. We just have to see when it's going to be. We've got some streamers that might be flipping around, but our next interview is definitely going to be 2 G's, 2 A's, 5 H's. He is an artist streamer. He's been doing speed art. You can check him out on Twitter. He's absolutely fantastic. So we're going to be checking him out. Then we've got Faviana coming up, Faviana TV. And then in a couple of weeks, we're going to be doing, I think her name's The Nerd Wife. She actually does yoga streams. So she does
I
yoga
know her. She's
specifically
super
for gamers.
cool.
Yeah, super, super cool. So those are going to be our interviews lined up. So keep an eye out. They're going to be at different random times. Everybody's got a different schedule. So we'll check that out. Oh, that's all right, Zentus. Just don't. I'll tell you later what words not to use, okay? We'll talk about it a little bit later, Zentus. So, guys, thank you so much for watching. Do you have anything else you want to say? Just kind of ending this up.
Just thanks for stopping by. I really appreciate the support from you. I appreciate their support to you, because without that, we wouldn't even be here. It's awesome to have met everyone, to have been able to have, shared my story. And I'm definitely going to be keeping an eye on you as you move forward. I'd like to definitely see you explode, man. You're doing a great thing here, and I really appreciate it.
All right, no problem. Everybody, guys, if you get a chance, go follow Rachairmuin. He is a fantastic streamer. Definitely deserves it. Let me actually. Oh, that's 222. Sorry. So check him out if you get a chance. Follow the link. Go and hit follow for me, guys. Make sure you check him out. He's going to be having some chat streams. He talks with some friends about just very interesting topics. And he tries the game every now and then, and hopefully some professional cooking streams coming soon. So, guys,
Yeah, as soon as I can handle that, I think in the next 2 weeks I should have the technology in my house to be able to make that happen. So that's what I'm working on. The next 2 weeks, I should be able to sell enough stuff to be able to get that laptop and start those cooking streams. So it's a big milestone for me.
We're looking forward to checking that out. So, guys, if you haven't, hit us up on your favorite podcasting platform. We're on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, and Castbox if that's your speed. We got links down in the description down below. You can click. If you're watching on the video, we got it in the description down below. If you are wanting to listen to it, or if you're here live, you can just click. There's like a button down below you'll be able to click. So we'll check that out. We'll see you guys next time. Yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. We'll see you later. Bye.